Hey guys, good morning. Thanks for joining the live stream. If you're just now joining, we are just now starting here, trying to get the lighting set up a little bit better here. Looks like we're fighting against a little bit of lag, which I kind of expected, so hope you'll bear with me on that. Internet has been very laggy, and I'm guessing that the reason for that is mostly due to so many more people being online right now, just being quarantined at home. So thanks for joining and bearing with me on any lagginess that you might be experiencing with the live stream. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started here. And as always, if you have any questions at all, make sure I've got the chat open here. If you have any questions or comments, you can type those inside the chat. And it looks like YouTube probably fixed whatever was broken between their API connection last time, so that's a good thing. Okay, I did spray this with textured fixative, so we've got a brand new surface now to work on, which is great. And now we can begin adding a few more layers on this and smoothing out that skin texture. Now, you may be looking at this and seeing a little bit of some bubbles here and there and that kind of thing. That happens with textured fixative. It's not a problem at all. Doesn't harm anything. It doesn't cause any problems. Actually, in a way, it's kind of a good thing because it is proof to you that you're getting a texture on top of this surface. So it might feel a little bit odd or seem a little odd at the beginning when you're starting to use textured fixative, but just know that it shouldn't cause you any problems at all. So that's a good thing to just keep in mind. All right. So I want to look around at this. Actually, there was a couple things I wanted to do before I got too far along. Raise my chair just a little bit here. Okay. Make sure this is coming down far enough over here. And yeah, I can tell already we're getting more surface now again, which is great. The more that we add on top, the better off we're going to be with being able to add more texture on this surface. Now that we've got this new textured layer, we're going to be able to add more pencil layers on top, which is a good thing. Okay. Let me go back over here to this side. I just want to kind of test and see how much pencil's coming off. Quite a bit, so that's good. I want to build up this lighter side over here, get more of a little bit of that reflective light back in here. And again, this is like glazing. This is just suggesting a little bit of some tone in here. You're just glazing on another color. I hope everyone is doing well and that you're staying safe and taking precautions and not going out unless you absolutely need to or you're an essential worker. So yeah, if I just add a light layer on top of this, then I'm going to be able to move this tint back in another direction. And if that is slightly lighter, then any of the irregularities that I have underneath this layer will start to smooth out a little bit. And that's what's worked well for me. So I know that may take some time to get used to if it's something that you're not accustomed to doing. If you would rather build in one direction, like you're working in light colors and then you go towards darker colors, then doing it this way might seem a little bit odd, might seem a little strange at first. And when you start on this surface again, it's like a brand new surface, it's a little scratchy a little bit, and it feels a little bit odd at the beginning, but just know that it will smooth itself out as you progress. I'm going to start way up here at the top of the forehead and work my way down. And I want to try to ignore as much as possible any of that scratchiness or any of the irregularities in the surface that I have now with that textured fixative, because it's not going to matter soon. The more I build up the layers of pencils on top of this, the more it will start disappearing. So, and that's a good thing. That's kind of what we want. Okay, this is lighter right in here. So what am I doing here? I'm following the values. I'm just looking around, looking for value shifts, especially subtle ones within the mid-range area, within these middle values. And I'm following just where those subtle shifts are, and then I want to make sure that I'm lengthening some of the application. So if I'm seeing something as being a lot lighter in one area, maybe over here on the edge of the face, and then as I approach this cheek, the top of the cheek here, this plane right up here might not be as bright as this plane over here, but I still want to push this color in that direction and over here, because it will add some continuity in the entire piece. And so by that same token, I want to lengthen that value all the way down the cheek just a little bit. Push it all the way down. And come back up here again, add more, and then push it all the way down again. I'll spray that, or blow that off just a little bit. There we go. Okay. So then as I start to turn over here, then I don't want to put a whole lot of lighter values right in here in this portion of the cheek, because this needs to remain a little bit darker than everything else. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. Hey, Carolyn, how are you? Thanks for joining over here today. Carolyn is over on Facebook Live. So we are streaming on YouTube Live and on Twitter today as well. There we go. So had I let that bother me, a whole lot, I don't know, several weeks ago when I had a lighter area over here, and then suddenly darker transition right in here, then I could have done a lot of things that would maybe add, what I'm trying to say is, so it's brighter over here, and it was real dark right here. And if that had bothered me a whole lot, and I started just over-obsessing in that area, then that could have caused me some problems, because I could have made some what I'm calling incorrect decisions for myself. And I could have obsessed in one area instead of looking at the overall image and the skin tones that I was creating. Because now, in my opinion, it's building up fine over in this area and in other areas. Because I want to keep that long-term perspective every single time. Thanks, Carolyn. Appreciate that. So I want to look up here again, look at my reference a little bit, and it's brighter, obviously, brighter up here, and then it fades into a lighter area. So I can switch pencils. Let me take a look. Oh, see, I grabbed the same pencil. I don't want to do that. Okay, I'm going to grab Oyster in the Derwent Lightfast, and I'm going to glaze on this Oyster color over here. It's going to be much brighter up here on the top of the forehead. So I'll suggest that just a little bit, just to kind of remind myself when I start working over here a little bit more. But then I'm going to softly add this value over here on this side and push it down. Now I got to move this light. I'm seeing a strong reflection here. That might be better. For me, I hope you guys can see that all right. Okay, so now I can push this down, because everything needs to be brighter up here at the top of the head. And then it will lighten up as I travel down this side of the face. Thinking about all of the forms over here, and right around the orbital area, I've got a little bit of light that will be reflected up above the eyebrow. I want to come in there above the eyebrow. This is a little bit scratchy in that area, so I want to be a little more forceful, push that in there. There we go. Carolyn's asking an important question over there on Facebook Live. Talking about using the Derwent Lightfast pencils. So they are an oil-based pencil, and you can use them throughout the drawing process. Now, when you're wanting something, though, to be a little more fluid, a lot more pliable and malleable, then I will gravitate towards the Polychromos pencil line by Faber-Castell. When I'm wanting to start making things a little more permanent and just getting a little more definite in some of the mark making and skin tones in particular, then I'm going to gravitate towards the Derwent Lightfast. Some of the final touches, and I know this doesn't jive with what a lot of people do, but when I'm starting to get close to some of the hard details and some of the finishing areas, then I'm going to use more of my Derwent Lightfast, and a combination of that and my Caran d'Ache Luminance pencils. So these Lightfast pencils, they're oil-based, but they feel quite a bit different than the Polychromos. So, Carolyn, I think they're an important pencil to add to your pencil collection. If you don't have those yet, I think you're going to love them. They took me a little bit of time to get used to. There's certain things that they are their own animal. They're a little bit different than probably all the other pencils, but they're very nice. Okay, I need very subtle colors in between here. Yes, most of the time I'm starting with Polychromos pencils, except for areas where I think, okay, that's going to be definite. When I start getting more sure of some of the lines, and we're talking about on a sanded surface, on something that is a non-absorbent surface, then I'll use a wax-based pencil or even the Derwent Lightfast. Now, like in this case, I'm not seeing a pencil. Well, maybe I can use this sienna a little bit. I need a slightly darker mid-range value. The sienna is just a little bit too dark, but it might work in this case. So I'm tempted to go with this Polychromos. What are they calling this one? Medium flesh. I'm real bad about paying attention to the names of the colors. I'm more looking. I know them just by sight now, and so I'm looking really at what that pencil is. I'm looking at the value. I know what it will look like when it goes down. But I think I'm going to go ahead and go with this sienna for a little bit and just darken some of these values. And see, when you hit some of these areas that have a little bit more of that scratchiness because of some of that textured fixative on there, you can just press slightly harder and it will loosen that up just a little bit and come right off. So that's really not a problem. You can also use one of your soft tools that is clean on this side, and that is clean, and you can just kind of push a little hard in that area, and it will loosen up some of those little bubbles, or whatever you want to call those. That's really what they are. You just press down pretty hard. Sometimes it'll get rid of it. Sometimes it won't. It will after you go over those areas again. And we're going to do that, so it shouldn't be a problem. But anyway, did that answer your question, Carolyn? I hope so. I think it's a great set of pencils, and the 24 set is a nice set to get. Of course, the 72 is better, obviously, but the 24 set is a nice set to get, and I think you can probably purchase it for around $60, something like that, USD. Yeah, that's a little dark, but that's okay for the moment. It's all right. Yeah, something else to buy, right? Okay. There you go. That's a good Mother's Day present, right? There are really enough colors in the 24 set to be able to do portraits with. Of course, the more pencils you have, the better, right? But the 72 set would be a great one. But the 24 set you can get away with, and it's certainly adequate for being able to use for portraiture. So I love these pencils. I'm so glad they came along. I think the market was ready for this kind of pencil. Okay. Let me see here. I like looking at it on the screen over here. Just get a better idea of what's going on. So I'll blend that out a little bit more right in here a little bit later. Because it needs to extend a little bit more over here. But I need a slightly better mid-range color to use right in there. So I need to kind of look at it a little bit more before I do that. So I want to come back over here, this side. Basically the same thing. Got to go quite a bit darker up there in the forehead too, eventually. So okay. The nice thing about a sanded paper, even after you spray it, is that you don't have to use an extremely sharp pencil until you get to final details, till you get to that spot where you need exact small details to be rendered pretty accurately. So that's just something to keep in mind, that you've got time. Make that value separation right here between the light and the dark. Just pulling that back again and pushing those values again, both dark and light. I can see that a little bit better. And I need to blow that again, some of those areas. Okay. So this is one of those times where I can think, okay, I can make this darker in these areas, and then I'll take a lighter color. I'll come back in there, and I will brush this area again. And by brush, I just mean that I'm smoothing out some of these darker values, and I'm also creating a more muted effect. I don't want there to be like this huge drastic change in values. That's not what I'm after in portraits. I want it to be subtle. I want my huge value shifts to be in the eyes and in areas that you're going to focus on, which will be the eyes mostly. Value separations in the hair, dark and light of logical areas like corners of where the cheeks are and the ears, where the hair and the sides of the head start to recess into shadows, those kinds of things. Not in the skin, not up there in areas where I should have subtle transitions. Somebody may say, well, it depends on the lighting, right? And yes, it does. And so it is an artistic choice to look at a portrait and to say, okay, I like a more subdued value transition, and so a lighting situation that doesn't create harsh light and value shifts. That's what I'm after most of the time. Okay, let's see. Push that down. All right, so now we gotta take a look and figure out which pencil I do want to go with. looks like that's Cinnamon by Polychromos. See, now this is one of those times, Carolyn, where I'm going to have to decide on a color rather than a pencil type. And it's going to work. You know, all those things about hard and soft, and if one is harder than the other, or if it has more oil than one that has more wax, you know, those all take second stage whenever you're talking about color tone when you get down to nearly the end of the drawing, in my opinion. That works better for me. Okay. So this one ought to do it a little bit. That's a little, probably a little bit too dark still. So I'm going to use it judiciously and not just put it in every single spot on this shadow here. Then I can come back in the other direction with some lighter colors. So, let me see. Go up here. And then gradually move into that dark shadow. And if I turn my pencil in a slightly different direction than I was using whenever I laid down that sienna from the Derwent Lightfast, I'm going to be able to brush this a little bit more and work out some of the pencil strokes that I may have left behind. There we go. Okay, I want to take a look at it, and I want to be able to really see it so I can blow off some of that. There we go. Okay, now I can use that lighter, that oyster color up here in the forehead and then push it down very, very close to this shadow. Even if I come on top of this with some of the hair a little later on, then I'm not going to be sorry that I used some of this lighter skin tone, because I want that to show through. Now I need to sharpen that. Now, that's one thing that I do notice is I need to have a sharper pencil typically with the Derwent Lightfast line when I'm getting down to these final details. I need to have a sharper Derwent Lightfast pencil than I do when I'm using the Polychromos pencils. Seems to work better for what I'm wanting to accomplish. Now I don't have to go up real far because some of that's going to get into the hairline, and then there will be a shadow and some shading that will occur up there because of the hair, right? Okay, I can push this down. I want to look at my reference, make sure I'm keeping that lighter area in its proper spot. And then as I move down, it does sort of that haloing effect where you've got some of those warm colors that start to bleed over and to take control of that highlight. So in other words, we've got some pinks, maybe even some oranges that will influence the coloring right in there. And I think you can see that if I move this smaller version, you can see that pretty well in that reference right there. Some of those other colors in that forehead. So I want to kind of pay attention to that. Make sure that I capture that. It just adds an element of realism when I do that. So I can push this a little bit further down into the shadow area, and then I can come back with those other colors that I just talked about. Okay. I want to go in this direction a little bit. Yeah, now this is where this is some of those areas where the Derwent Lightfast pencils will start to behave more like a wax-based pencil, in that it will sort of just start clinging some of the pencil together, some of those pigment layers together, and it'll add this collection of pigment right on top. And it's maybe hard to see that, but let me see if I can zoom in just a little bit so you can see it a little bit easier. But it starts to collect right in there and just sort of sit on top. Now, some of that is accentuated because of that textured surface that I'm working on, and so you're going to see a hit and miss. You're going to see some lighter areas and darker areas underneath this lighter area. And that's okay, because I'm using an extremely light pencil right now. But this side needs to be lighter than the other side, just slightly. So I want to make sure I capture that I remember that it's going to be lighter than the other side. And it will smooth itself out the more layers that I add on top. Okay, let's keep going down here. There we go. This gets pretty close to that edge. Right in there. It circles around and then it moves out over here. So push that up like that and then out this way. So I want to sort of redraw that highlight right in here just a little bit. There we go. That's enough for the moment right in there. And okay. At some point I will have to make this a little bit brighter, so I might as well do that right now. This pencil is getting so tiny. I mean, it's hard to sort of control it. I'm getting off the frame, so let me back it up for you here. There we go. We'll pan back out for a moment. We can see this better. Okay. Now, as I go down this cheek and I get closer to the chin, then it's not going to be as bright as what it is up higher. And the other thing is I'm pushing in this direction. I'm going up towards the pinnacle of this area of the cheek. So Carolyn is asking if I feel like the sanded paper is using a lot of the pencil. Yeah, it's an interesting question. It does use a lot of the pencil, but the key to it is really what you said. It uses it, and so it's actually making good use of the pencil. It is adhering to the surface, and it actually is shown on the surface rather than me constantly using tracking, just restating lines over and over and having to build up so many layers. I can build up a lot of layers if I want to, but I don't necessarily have to do that. It's just one of the reasons why I love sanded paper. It's quick. It's so much faster. I used to not believe that. And when I didn't believe it is the times that I wasn't using it. And I had these preconceived notions about what it would do. And I would test on it just a little bit, and then I would walk away from it and think, man, I don't know if I'll ever be able to use that surface. I don't think I can learn that. And then I would just try it again, and I kept just pushing myself to use it and test with it. Because I didn't like that gritty surface. I didn't like the tactile feel of touching that surface and feeling like I was touching sandpaper, So that was my biggest problem with it. But the way that the pencils adhered to the paper was just impressive to me. And being able to finish something quickly was also a big attraction. So I just sort of pushed through some of those things that bothered me, Does that make sense? And I just started trying to like it. And to be honest, it didn't take long after I gave it a fair test, and I really just embraced it and thought, okay, I do like this. This is going to work. And the benefits far outweigh any of the cons, in my opinion. Okay, let me see if I can go back in this direction. Cinnamon, this one is this cinnamon? I think it is. Yeah, it is. So cinnamon is one of those pencils where you can use it to, quote-unquote, brush an area, in my opinion, and just sort of blend things together. And the nice thing about this color is it's not as dark as what you feel like it is. It's actually a little bit on the lighter side. You feel like it's going to be really, really dark when you put it down. I mean, if you look at that pencil pigment out there on the end of it. But it really is not all that dark, which is nice. Okay, let's see here. I hope this stream is working okay. There's a lot of people online at my house right now and in my neighborhood and all, everywhere around the world, right? So I'm always concerned about that. That if there's a lot of people online, how is this going to affect the live stream today? But I don't know. It seems to be working okay. I'm hoping it's working over there on YouTube. Let me see. It may not be, actually. I didn't check that real closely. No, I don't think it is. So, okay, yeah. So, YouTube is still not working. Brother. All right. So, there you go. Ah, very cool, Diane. Thanks for coming over here, but appreciate what you're doing. I know you, if I remember correctly, you are connected to the medical community in some way. I think maybe you might be a nurse, if I remember correctly. I could have that wrong, but very cool. Appreciate you doing that. I'm sure that'll be a big help. Donating masks. Thank you so much. Okay. Push that over just a little bit and then use this cinnamon color here. Yeah, so I just found out YouTube is still not working properly. Go figure. I don't know. Restream keeps trying to make sure that, you know, they keep up with, you know, the API changes that YouTube puts out, and I don't know. It's just one of those things that apparently is hard to keep up with. I love that. Love the way that that cinnamon color is blending that together. That is what I wanted that to do. That is nice. And if you hit it in different directions, then you're going to smooth out some of your layers. Okay. Take a look at that, see what that's looking like. Okay. A little more of this wild lavender right in here. Especially right up under that little band around the eyelid. Band around the eye right in there. And right over here. There we go. Okay. A little bit on top. A little bit over here. All right. Blend that together just a little bit. Yeah, I would encourage anyone to at least try sanded paper and at least try pastel matte and just give it a shot and see what you think about it. And if you don't like it, then, you know, don't use it and maybe come back to it later on and give it another try again and see if you something's changed and see if you like it the next time you try it again. Sometimes that happens, where we, you know, we may just be used to drawing a certain way, and something isn't going to fit our particular style at the moment, our technique and method and that sort of thing. But you sort of evolve and change as you keep growing as an artist, and it's nice to return to things that maybe you thought you didn't like in the past and just see what you think about it now. And that could change for you. And you may start enjoying some of those things that earlier you didn't. That's certainly been true for me. Okay. This nose is another area where I've got sort of that haloing effect of the light creating some interesting colors, and I love that kind of thing. I always want to capture that. So I'll be able to put more pinks in here. That little edge right in here as this shifts from light to shadow. And it just makes something a little more compelling, a little more interesting when you do that. Adds just a little something. And I want to try to find those little details as I create the highlights. And then I move into the shadows. Okay. And this wraps around just a little bit. I can suggest a little bit of that reflected light right back in there. Just a little bit. Not a lot. Not a lot of it at all. In fact, I think I got a little bit too much right there. I can tone that back down and use a slightly lighter or darker color rather right in there. There we go. This does come down just a little bit more on both of these sides right there by the nostrils, the ala, and then it's pushed back up over here on the nose. Okay. Now, since this is more of a mid-range area, this color is, I can just accent that highlight just a little bit over here. The same thing that we're doing right here with all of these highlights, we're going to be doing inside the shadows later. But for now, I want to focus mostly on the highlights right now. There we go. Now, I don't know what's going on where you are in the world, wherever you may happen to be. But over here in Ohio, we have a stay-at-home order. And so you're not allowed to be leaving your home unless it is for something very essential. And if you're an essential worker, then that's different as well. First responders, anyone in the medical field, things like that. Otherwise, they're urging companies to make it possible for workers to stay at home, which is a great thing. Help flatten that curve of people infected by the COVID-19 disease right now. All right. I really need that mid-range area right now, so I think I'll go with this color. That looks pretty accurate. It's a little brighter maybe than what I want higher up, so I'm going to push it down just a little bit. I'm pressing pretty hard at this point. And I want this mostly to be up there at the edge of that highlight. Okay. Now I can, let me look. I can move this down. Yeah. With that cinnamon color again. I'm going to reach up into the highlight and push it down using soft pressure in the beginning and then increasing my pressure as I'm leaving that transition from light to shadow. Now I'm also going to have to add more of the highlight back in there again once I'm done with this. But for now, that works to get that subtle transition. I don't want a harsh transition, right? I want that to be very, very subtle. There's just not hardly a pencil that I can use that will perform as nicely as the Polychromos pencil to be able to softly and very subtly transition out of a darker or lighter value into a mid-range area. It can be done with other pencils, but I really love using the Polychromos pencils in concert with all these other pencils as well. The Derwent Lightfast, got a little bit of a reflection here again. The Caran d'Ache Luminance pencils. I mean, just using them all together like that really works very, very well. Okay, blow this off. There we go. Okay. Use this wheat color just to accent a few areas up here. Smooth some of that out, but it'll also add a hint of this ochre color. There we go. I know there's a lot of people that are very worried right now about their jobs, about their livelihood, and that's really heartbreaking to think about. The fact that, you know, a few weeks ago, some people were not worried about their jobs, and then now they are, and you know, that's an awful place to be in. We don't know what the fallout will be with a lot of, you know, the economic impact of what's going on, but it's just, it should help us, I think, to be more patient with each other, with one another. All right. I don't want a lot of this over there. I want to relegate it mostly up here in this shadow up on the top of the head there. There we go. All right. A little bit right in there maybe. Huh, maybe not. I didn't like that. Let's see if I can remove that. Should be able to. Yeah, a little bit, for the most part. I remember early on, when I first started drawing in colored pencil, and I came from graphite, teaching myself how to do graphite, and then I wanted to learn colored pencil. And I reached out to several artists, some of which are not even doing colored pencil anymore at all. But anyway, I sent them emails and asked them questions, and most of them were very, very nice, and they gave me some pointers. I wasn't expecting a reply. I just told them I liked their work, as I did. And then, there you go, Carolyn. All right, thanks for joining today. Happy homeschooling. Hope things go well. Hope they can keep busy on their own. You too, Carolyn. So anyway, I remember in particular, though, talking to a couple, well, one in particular, really, but there were a couple that said this, but I remember them saying, I've learned how to not erase. And because they came from the same type of, bye, Carolyn. Thanks for joining. They came from the same background of graphite, and they said, I learned how to not erase. And to me, that was kind of key. One of them said it in a very arrogant way. I won't go into that, but anyway, and that's something that always just, it just so repels me when an artist just has sort of this elitist kind of attitude. And so anyway, I won't go into a lot of that. But the other one, though, just said that, they were just honest about the way that they started approaching this medium, coming from this background of graphite. And they said, I sort of leaned on erasing as sort of a crutch, and then they said that I learned how to just make marks count, and learned how to not erase. Now, I may have added that make marks count bit myself, but I remember thinking about that and then sort of internalizing it quite a bit later on, and thinking it makes a lot of sense, and then that is something that I think about a lot. Is I want to make marks count. I want to do things that really matter on the piece. And a lot of things that some people do, some artists may do, may not matter that much. It may be something that they like to do. I'm not denying that. But sometimes there are marks that make a difference, and then there are marks that really just don't matter that much. And so I'm always fighting with myself with that. I'm trying to get better as an artist in determining what really does matter, and what is it that I'm doing that I'm just spinning my wheels at, because I think we all do that. And the closer we get to the truth of what we're doing, then we'll begin to determine what really does matter. What are those marks that really make a difference? And what are the marks that I'm just doing because they make me feel good, or they're timid marks. They're marks that make me feel like I'm making progress, And I think we all have that. Being able to recognize it, though, is quite a different thing. I feel like I'm getting a little bit better at that myself, and I should be. It's one of my goals always with every piece, is to try to get better at recognizing what are wasted efforts and what are the efforts that really matter. It's true in anything, though, right? I always feel like that drawing and creating art is such a metaphor for life, because there's always things that we could be doing more efficiently, better than what we've done in the past. And I think it's no less true for our art. Okay. I think we might stop right there. I don't want to end right there where that isn't making sense to me. I want that to look a little different. I need that value to be a little bit darker, and then the transition up there. There we go. It's a little bit better. All right. Okay. I think I will go ahead and say goodbye to you today. And if you are part of the Sharpened Artist Academy, and if you are inside Face Value course in particular, then we are doing the live stream, the office hours is what we call those, today, and where we jump on video together. So that's happening today. So if you're able to join, that would be great. I always look forward to that. And oh, thanks, Angel. Appreciate it. Yeah, I look forward to jumping on those calls with you guys on office hours. And if you're wondering about the time and the link and the password and all of that, it's inside the course curriculum over there in the Sharpened Artist Academy. If you started taking either the challenge, Portrait Prep Challenge course, part Session 1 and Session 2, I offered that as a free option to those that are on my email list, then just stay tuned. I've got some more things that I want to announce to you, or you may have started taking the 10 Minutes to Take Off course as well. So I'm so excited that so many of you have joined. It's been a little overwhelming. There's just been so many who have joined recently, so that's exciting. And just know that if you've emailed me, I'm trying to get to all of those replies soon. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and stop here for today, and I'll talk to you next time. If I don't see you soon, then I will see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.